Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Wildman Revolution podcast. As always, I'm super excited to have a phenomenal guest on. I'll get to him in a minute as he eagerly awaits. If you want me to keep getting this out there and getting great men on and keep improving the value that I add on here, and if you want to help me in my mission, please like and subscribe wherever you're watching or listening to this, all major platforms. If I spit out my words today too, I've been pretty crook for the last week and I've done all that I can to be up for this one. Also, leave a review, leave a comment. Always open to constructive criticism. I've got a bunch of Wildman Revolution t-shirts there I'm happy to give away for either nice comments or not so. I'm off to a great start. Keeping it real. All right, let's get to our guest. My following guest is an absolute powerhouse when it comes to serving people and helping people. I've known the man for a number of years. We've connected online as one of the many men that I haven't actually met in person, but I feel like we're basically brothers because we do talk all the time. We do cheer each other on, support each other. This man knows ins and outs of so many things. He is the leader of a community, an educator called Sound Money Secrets. Covers everything, like it's in the title. His personal brand is Success with Coel. Again, that says it all. And his success purely comes from the amount of people he helps and the value he adds to the world. So, Coel Linnel, mate, it is a privilege to finally
yes,
you on.
awesome.
How are you, my man?
I'm awesome. I'm good, Steve. How long have we been wanting to do this? It's been so long, and I just like it's been like building up inside of me. I've been like, I can't wait to get on the podcast. And it's funny you say that, actually, because this is actually my first podcast.
There you go. I've been popping a few people's cherries lately. It feels good.
I know. And it's such a different environment, a podcast. It's so laid back in the sense where you can just kind of let it flow. And like letting it flow is like something that I've always been about. Like I've always been about just jumping on and just communicating and just having that open space where you don't have to kind of be censored or controlled by like a real strict agenda. I just feel that like a podcast is a great space for people to kind of, I guess, just be unfiltered and untethered,
Well,
it's what we're about.
I was saying to you before that, you go, oh, I'm probably going to have to watch my language through this. And I'm like, no, fuck that.
Oh man, and the other thing too is I like the ability to just communicate and just be open and also swearing. I do a lot of it. It just brings out passion. I'm big for passion and leading with I guess an authentic approach to everything we do. And as you went over my personal brand, and I will go over a bit of a backstory of myself and how I kind of met Steve and got into the online space, because I think it's important for the listeners to understand how we connected. And I guess the power of the online space, it's just incredible. Some of the people, like my business partner lives in the eastern states and I've never met her in person. It's incredible, and like definitely like I feel that like my brand really, I guess, entails who I am as a person. And that's what I always wanted. I always thought I had all these fancy different names for my brand, and I wanted to be creative with it. And then I was like, why don't you just go with Success with Coel? It's simple, right? People know me for who I am. So like, as they say, it's important to, I definitely believe that it's important. People won't only do business with you or associate with you at all, if they know, like, and trust you. So, like, what better way to do it than to have your name and your brand? And, when I guess it started it would be about 5 to 6 years ago. I didn't really dive deep with Success with Coel, but when I started out in the online space, it was it's completely changed so much, Steve. Like, I know that it's just fucking next level, man. Like, so many different platforms and, so many different approaches. And I guess this is why people get so like caught up and lost. It's just, you can get so lost and lose direction in what you're doing. And, you know, when I started out, I had no idea what I was doing. It was just like somebody that's starting a new trade, you know, and they're starting out and they're like, I don't know what tool to use. I don't know what platform to use. So for me, it was just about stumbling my way through that and getting to a stage where, you know, being connected was the most important thing. And that's what the platforms allow you to do. They create, I guess, a foundation for us to connect with like-minded people, no matter, you know, walk of life, race, religion, you know, what that person's doing. I just believe that, you know, it does create an amazing foundation to meet people like yourself, to be on podcasts like this, you know, and to empower other people to I guess, you know, create that flow on effect and that, you know, that ripple, you know, out to people that maybe need inspiration or need to help, I guess, build their own vision. But, you know, where it's got me to now, like that's 7 or 8 years ago now. And, you know, now how I look back at it, I guess I don't reflect back enough. I'm a very driven person, which I had to learn to be driven actually, which was quite crazy. Initially, this is fucking crazy. Like when I first started out, bro, I was so like, you know, I was into partying and I was going out heaps and I just wasn't focused. And I treated the online space, you know, like it was some sort of hobby. And I was wondering why I was getting no results. I was like, well, I look at all these people getting results and nobody sees the like back story. Nobody sees what happens underneath the surface, like what sort of work is being put in, you know? And it wasn't till I established that you have to treat it like it's a business and it'll pay you like it's a business, for fuck's sake, you know, like, and I come to understand that. It took me like 5 years to understand that. So, you know, as they say, you're doing your apprenticeship. You know, you're doing your apprenticeship. There is a such thing as doing an apprenticeship in the online space. But, you know, there's been a lot of like stuff throughout that timeline that I've been through. You know, I've spent a long time in the network marketing space. You know, I've been a coach for 10 years. So I've always worked with people. And this is where I feel that like those skills of working with people, it doesn't matter what industry you're in or what you do. When you learn the skills, all of a sudden everything just starts like, you know, it's just so easy. It's so easy. But, you know, I just enjoy it. I just roll with it, man. It's just fun. I just find it really fun now. I find it like super, super empowering jumping on podcasts and stuff like this. And I've been doing a lot more stuff on, you know, as I was saying to Steve earlier before we went live, before we recorded, you know, I've been doing a lot more stuff in the uncensored space. And that's because some of the education that we put out is just, it needs to be heard, but they don't want you to hear it. So, you know, we talk a lot about gold and silver and inflation and, you know, corruption and, you know, the banking system and how to remove yourself from that. And we educate on that space. And that's what Sound Money Secrets is. That's what we're doing. We're really helping people untether from the system. And we're helping them definitely, you know, I guess, we're helping create a community and a movement, you know, that's definitely exiting that matrix. And I know for people that are listening to this, if you understand what the matrix is, you know, it's just when you start understanding how everything is so interlinked, it just blows your mind. But I mean,
yeah, I reckon we'll dig into that more in a minute. I would love, because there's a lot of people who are new to the online space or maybe a couple of years in on their journey, whether they're doing affiliate or network marketing or trying to build their brand or becoming a coach, whatever it is. I know I've got a bunch of lessons that I've learned along my journey in that apprenticeship, and I love how you laid that out. what have been some of the key lessons that you would share with listeners or viewers from probably the first 5 years, 4 or 5 years that you applied? Looking back, it's like, wow, that took me a lot to learn that lesson, but I'm glad I learned it and glad I applied it. What are some of the key lessons that you could share?
The first one, like, I know this sounds so cliche and so obvious, but persistence is key. And I mean that from, from definitely a perspective of, you need to not quit. You have to think about it in the sense of, like, you're not, like, people go to work for years upon years upon years upon years, right? They start when they're 18 and they work till they're, well, now it's getting worse, but like they work till they're in their mid 70s or something, right? Who knows if like retirement will even be a thing, in the next 5 years. I mean, most people are still working till the day they die. So number one, you got to enjoy what you do. That's the first thing. Like, if you're not passionate about what you're doing, you need to change your circumstance. You needed to change your environment. To me, that's vital. And then you need to be persistent with your efforts. So all the small things, like the small habitual behaviors that I guess people tend to ignore, those things are key. Those things are key. And a lot of people just forget about those. Like, I'm huge for like daily rituals. Up, first thing you do, make the bed, all of these things. Like, how you do one thing is how you do everything. If you got a messy office, you got a messy fucking life, bro. That's how it works. Like, it's true, so I say start with you, working on yourself first, and then, cleaning up all that shit in your life. And I know Steve can resonate with this because I know a little bit about Steve's backstory and a lot of the shit that he went through. But I can resonate with that because, I went through that period of taking the drugs and, stimulating to get you when you go in the gym, it's so tired that I was taking that much fucking pre-workout, but now it's just like, I'm just liberated, I wake up every day and I go, okay, what's the first thing we do? We fill our own cup first. And it's not being selfish. It's being selfless. So when you think of it that way, what you're doing is preparing yourself first so that you can become a better person. And as soon as I started doing that, Steve, everything changed. Everything. The way I applied myself, the changes in my business, the results in my business, the people that I was hanging around and surrounded by. Amazing, incredible.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things that people overlook with this. When they're coming online, I think they think, like I like how you said earlier, you were treating it not like a business. You were treating it like a part-time gig, It's even marketed and sold to that, like hustle on the side and all this sort of stuff. Anything that implies that that's on the side, you're not going to give your full attention to. Now, it doesn't mean your full attention doesn't mean you can't go to your day job and all that, but everything you bring into your life, you've got to give it 100% focus when you're doing that sort of thing. And I think a lot of people come online, doesn't matter what field of expertise they're in, even if they've got no expertise in their learning, they'll give up. How many stats are out there that new businesses, be it online or offline, don't make it through a year or two? They don't, because they basically give up, or they don't learn the lessons or apply the lessons, or they don't treat it like a legitimate business, and they would rather give up than like really knuckle down and learn some things. And I think a lot of them don't prioritize the fun part of it. You got to enjoy what you do too.
Totally.
And we both get this, because what better feeling do you get from helping someone succeed or helping someone with the simplest thing so they move forward? It is so fulfilling.
Exactly. And just to back that up, like when you look at people, majority of people, right, as they say, like the most heart attacks, stats say that the most heart attacks happen on a Monday, right? And that's because people don't want to go to their fucking job. They don't like their job. But they're not willing to take the action steps to change that and change their circumstances. So like, when they do, all of a sudden that they just have this expectation, and I'm seeing this happen a lot at the moment, because people are struggling with what's going on, and inflation's at an all-time high, and living expenses, and people are like got kids, and they're like, I can't put food on the table for my kids. I need extra income. So they're looking for the easiest path of the path of least resistance, and they're plugging their money into things, and they're getting scammed, and then they're in a worse position. And I'm like, oh my God, like seriously, like if you just treated or put in the amount of work that you do when you go to your job into this online business, you would see probably double or triple the amount of results, and you'll probably get paid the equivalent of that or more.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I remember when I first come out of the mines, high paying job, long hours and everything, but I was done, and I come into a network marketing company and still use their product. Said, great, don't do the business. But I thought it was a holiday. I'm like, this will just happen. I'm seeing these people with their magical checks and all this. And it took me probably 18 months. But it took me 18 months of really tough lessons where I literally threw structure out the window, discipline out the window, all the things that actually got me results in life, but I attached them to a job. And I come in, and it was like, I had to learn some tough lessons early on. And then it was like, oh shit, I realized this is an apprenticeship. Then I got to work, and it was still a number of years. But I think this is a good segue into, you've touched on like people in their job and they do take on these opportunities. What Sound Money Secrets and the community and everything involved there actually is it's a massive solution for people right now. Let's talk a bit more about that, and maybe start with some of the education. You've touched on monetary system, Federal Reserve, inflation. Do you want to just dive into that a little bit to give some context for people, why it's important to know?
Yeah, totally. So like how we started Sound Money Secrets was, a lot of people don't actually understand like what actually happens in the banking system, what actually happens to their money that sits in their bank account. So we wanted to rise it up and create more awareness around banking secrets, are revealed, right? Banking secrets revealed. Like when people start to learn, I guess, the deeper kind of things that happen in the banking system, they kind of have these aha moments and these penny drop moments, and they're like, are you serious that they're using my money to make money? I'm like, fuck yeah. So we wanted to create more awareness around that. We wanted to create more awareness around hedging against inflation. What kind of things, do I put my money into that's going to protect me and, preserve my wealth long term, And there are certain things that we're big for gold and silver, and we're obviously a big supporter of cryptocurrency as well, because it allows the people to really transact between each other, peer-to-peer transactions. And this is something we can talk about more shortly. But I guess Sound Money Secrets was just a hub and a community that allowed people to build their knowledge and really speak their mind, because there's so many people that are coming in that are on the same level but scared and fearful to actually fully engage and really speak their mind. And especially with social media, a lot of things get censored. So we wanted to create a community that allowed people to speak their mind. Although we are starting to transition into, like I was saying earlier, we're utilizing Clubhouse. When we talk deep about inflation and we talk deep about government corruption and that sort of stuff, we kind of go into that. If we're going into that deeper space, we don't want to really put it out on, so we're getting blocked and stuff like that, because it's not good for business. And I'm not huge for speaking about, I guess, what's going on in the world and, pandemics and stuff like that on my actual Facebook wall, purely because, you know, it's the backbone of my business, and I can't afford to be. I actually got I've been getting shadow banned for a long time, because I talk about gold and silver all the time, and I talk about they don't want us to have gold and silver. They want us to use the government money. You know, they want to use the debt-based fiat system, you know, and enslave us, right? So
explain inflation, because I think it's easy. Explain inflation, not judging people out there, but for dummies. Can you do that?
Yeah, totally.
What is it?
Like inflation is just when the rise of I guess, you know, goods and services, so-called get more expensive, is probably the easiest way to put it. They get more expensive, but what is actually happening is because of the printing of currency, that's actually, you know, the currency we use today, the fiat currency, which is government printed money. The more that gets printed, what happens is the purchasing power of that dollar, say that $5, it's less. So for instance, look at it like this. When we were a kid, and you know, I remember my mum used to give me like a $5 note, and I'd be like, oh, I got this $5 note, you know, I'm going to go to the shops and I can get a bag of lollies. I can get, you know, a scoop of, you know, fried chips. And, you know, back then we didn't care about, you know, nutrition wasn't really a fight, you know, and, you know, I'd get as much as I could for my $5, a couple of games on the spacey machines, and, you know, all of these sort of things. And this was fun for us back in the day. But like now you look at what that $5 note can get you now. Like, do they even have $5 notes anymore? Like, I don't know. Like, this is how untapped I am, right? But like a $50 note right now, can you be lucky if that really gets you much? So that's what I mean by the purchasing power. The purchasing power of the actual, like the amount, is just getting worse and worse and worse by the day. Now,
do you know what's getting worse? I'll jump in here. Is the excuses they're giving for why things are getting more expensive. So people are going to soon realize, if they're not realizing already, these world events that are pre-orchestrated, that are pumped through the media. I'm going to give one example. The Ukraine thing, the way the media is pumped it, not taking away from some of the circumstances, but the way it is propagated through the media and the way it is utilized by governments to say, this is why the supply lines are being cut and fuel's more expensive and blah, 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 blah. That's all bullshit. This has been going on for a long time, and it's a cover for inflation. Even the inflation numbers aren't for real. But unless you get educated on this, you're always going to fall for the trap of whatever the government sells you to give you the reason why you're paying double the amount of money for your fuel today, while you're paying double the amount or triple the amount of money for your bread, for your milk, for your basic things. In the last 2 years, things have tripled in price. Now, inflation, they're saying, is like 7 or 8%. That maths doesn't add up.
That's a load of shit,
and it's
bro.
not because of some actor who's in charge of a country in Europe is on TV all the time being pumped up by the media to say, oh, no, we've been invaded. So you have to pay more for your bread over there, even though it's made fucking...
That's the facts, man. That's the facts. If you can't see that, like if you look at the property market right now, like if you look at how inflated the property market is right now, this is crazy. This is a crazy subject. And I keep saying to people, the bigger plan of things, that the grand scheme of things here is that the property market, people are silly. I don't know why they buy when the property market's up. I can't answer that question.
Probably the same reason why people buy crypto at the top.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So like, look, we can only say to people, you know, buy low, sell high, right? It makes sense. But people right now are buying property, buying houses in the top end of the market, right? Well, interest rates are just rising to an all-time high, right? Look, I mean, people aren't getting paid more. Like the wages aren't going up, right? Like there's a big mismatch here. And how this ends, and I don't want to be the bearer of bad, I guess, but it's facts, man. I'm here to talk the facts, and the facts are that, like, when these interest rates rise, the average general population are not going to be able to afford to pay their mortgage, and they're basically going to have to go, or they'll go either bankrupt, or the bank will say, well, we're going to take your property off you. And that's what's going to happen.
Throw in this, and this is why it is an agenda. When we talk about this stuff, we talk a lot privately, and in our close networks, we're well aware of this, and where we are positioning ourselves to help people with this transition through education and awareness. Without this awareness of the agenda that's at hand, like you will own nothing and be happy. I've got the books there. I think I've shared on a couple of the podcasts before from good old Klaus Schwab and all his cronies and stuff like that, which most of governments around the world are, you can tell which ones have sold out to this agenda. And they actually want properties. They want properties to skyrocket. They want people to be homeless and on the street and not be able to afford things. They want them relying on the governments, because then you will own nothing and be happy. Now, one thing we've got in Australia, and I'm sure you're aware of this, I know in Victoria, it might even be the new puppeteers in government here in Australia, here Albanese, that have talked about the first home buyer grant going up to 48% that they're going to give you. But that means the government's going to have 48% equity in your home. So then when you can't afford it, who gets your home?
Exactly.
It's in front of us, people. It's right in front of us. And it's actually, I get it. You can probably tell I've got a bit of emotion around this, because I actually get triggered that people can be so fucking blind that they talk about this in the media and everything as if the government are here to help, but they're not. They're trying to take all our assets, and they're trying to push us to the brink.
And I totally agree with that. I mean, when you look at a government is a smart. It's a marketing. It's a business, bro. It's design. It's a business, right? So a business thrives on profit, right? So what do you think their main agenda is? It's to make shitloads of profit. And what better way to do it is to leverage people that believe that the government has their back. The government never had your fucking back. The banks don't have your back, right? The only person, and I said this on a clubhouse meet yesterday, actually, when we were talking about this exact topic, the only person that's got your back is you. That's facts. The only person who's got your back is you.
Yeah, that scares a lot of people too, because it's like personal responsibility. And a lot of people are scared of that. Whatever they've got from their past, whatever they've been let down or hurt or anything like that, they don't have the courage or confidence. But that's what people have got to work on now. And the bank's a good example. I can share this because this is like really fresh in our world. We applied for a community solutions account at a bank. Community solutions, be able to give back and help not for profit. We've already got a bunch of things going on. And just by applying for the account, 5 months later, no word of a lie, they shut down all of our accounts with 1 week's notice because we applied for an account. And then I've been talking to people in my network who are doing great things in the community. We've had floods here. Like a mate of mine set up a community solutions thing to help with the floods here around Lismore, Northern Rivers and everything. Got lots of donations, was giving it directly to the community. The banks shut all of his accounts down. Talking to another couple, they were away. The bank didn't even contact them. They've shut their accounts down. Like, if people can't start to see that the banks are literally, the governments are the puppets, the marketing machine for the banks and the pharmaceutical companies, they're all interlinked. If people don't wake up to this now, when the digital dollars come in, so maybe here's a segue to the digital world, for when their central bank coins come in, the digital dollar, that is social credit system. If you gobble that up, people, you're done. You might as well get a chip in your wrist and just scan in and out of everywhere. And just that barcode is who you are, not your name, the barcode.
I totally agree. Like I saw something the other day, actually, and I don't know if you saw me put this up, but like, it's like a pyramid shaped, with the slaves at the bottom and then the resource control and the financial control. And it goes to the top, and who's at the top? The Queen.
The bloody Queen, the big lizard.
The big lizard man.
A tinfoil
And
hat shit
people-
here, the big lizard.
And people are like, Cole, you're involved in a pyramid scheme. And I say, well, what are you involved in then? You know,
It's
dictatorship.
the age-old one, but isn't it? When we're doing different things,
Oh
and
my
that's
God, it's so funny. It's so funny. And the conversations I have about this is just, they just get better and better. Like, I don't get asked that anymore, like with the whole pyramid scheme thing anymore, Steve. It's more, you know, the conversations we have are very, very deep, and you know, there's a lot of meaning behind it, because a lot of these layers that, you know, as you strip layers back, like, you start to understand that, like, the only way you can get ahead in this world is if you back yourself. You know, I feel that a lot of people just don't back themselves. They don't give themselves, you know, the you know, they don't have the belief structure in themselves to go ahead and start to take steps. Like,
I think one of the big things when I look at that and I see that, and this is why I love what you do, you're all about community. And when we can get some social proof from other people who are doing a bit better than us, or got a bit more confidence than us, or have got some more results, that social proof in a community, there's probably nothing more powerful for helping people get out of their own way or get out of their comfort zone. So that's why I love what you do, because it's always at the core. If you're starting something new, or you've got something come your way where you can help people, it's always, all right, let's get this to the people. Let's get the community around this. How do you see your role in that sort of the community as an educator or as a leader? How do you see your role as that? Like, and as a man too, let's bring it back to being a man in this current time, because I want to bring that into, because it is the wild man revolution.
Yeah.
But how do you see your role in that, like, evolving going forward?
Yeah, I definitely, like, for me, it's everybody. I'm a big believer in everybody needs a shoulder to lean on, right? So, like, when I look at it, like, I'm very, I come from a place of empathy, but not sympathy. So, you know, there's a big difference there. So, like, Cole, there's the hard ass Cole, and then there's the Cole that gives a fuck, right? But, like, there's no in between for me. There's just one or the other. You know, there's no in between. I don't dance in between. I'm not like that person that's going to be like, oh, I can't believe that happened to you. Oh, and feeling sorry for people. I'm more here to support you and help you bridge the gap between where you are now and what your dreams are. That's what I'm that support mechanism. So I'm not here to sympathize with people and say, well, oh, I can't believe that you got no money because you haven't taken action. That's there. It's all here for you. But the problem is, it's not the business opportunity, Steve. It's not, you know, that people aren't exposed to it. It's just the people are lazy, and they just don't take action, man. And I've been guilty of this myself in my early days. You know, when we talked about apprenticeships, and as you move through, you know, this apprenticeship, you soon realize that you got to fucking go to work. You know, otherwise you don't get any results. Like Steve, you know, Steve's, you know, he's feeling under the weather, but it's like, well, we need to do this podcast. It needs to happen because maybe people are waiting to hear this information. And maybe this is the gonna help that person have that penny drop moment that's gonna make them take action and move closer towards their dream. So I'm that, like, that catalyst in between that helps push people towards their dreams by utilizing vehicles like network marketing. And I'm a big endorser of network marketing because it gives the average person the ability to come in and earn more than their boss. You can't do that, man. That doesn't happen in the corporate world. That doesn't happen in, you know, the tradie world. It's the biggest question I ask people. I say, well, do you think you can ever earn more than your boss? So instead of working for a pay rise, how about you just fire your boss and, you know, you just, like, you know what I mean? So that's what I am. That's who I am. That's what I'm about. That's what I like to focus on, is being that catalyst to help push people towards their dream, bridge that gap. Because people sometimes they just need their hand held initially. And then it's that story of, then you flap your wings and you fly, So it's a coaching process, and I love it, I've been doing it for 10 years in person, and now in the online space, it's the same.
We're very
Nothing
similar in that
changes.
regard too, that we're pretty straight up, having compassion and empathy, never sympathy. And I think that's what we need, especially as men. And I know my role over the last few years, I really drifted a lot away from that for a year or two there, went a bit fluffy, but I had to find myself in a different way to really come back in and understand that what the planet needs right now is really solid, grounded men to just call it how it is sometimes. And sometimes that is a big kick up the arse. Sometimes that is a bit of a slap over the shoulder and say, hey, I'm not going back for you, but I'm here for you if you're willing to fucking step up and do the work. Because I think going to the agendas again, another one, you will own nothing and be happy. There's a whole thing going around where it's like, everyone's going to receive equal money and all this sort of, you're not going to have to work for it. And I see that coming through in the generations at the moment. Now, I'm blessed and grateful.
Entitlement.
100%. Now, I'm blessed and grateful. There's some absolute young people that I've had around me. I've had the privilege of either coaching or being associated with. One of the guests, Dominic Morosini, is a great example that I've had on the podcast earlier, who are super action takers and really give us stuff. But they are a dime a dozen at the moment from what I can see manifest from the way the schooling system's indoctrinated kids to go, oh, you're not going to need to work as much. We're going to have equal wages, equal this, equal that. Yeah, on the surface, that sounds good. But I think it's bred this generation of young people that don't really want to work. And when push comes to crunch, they're going to need to kick up the ass.
I totally agree. Like, look, if you look at society now, there's two things that make society tick. And it's what they want you to do is, number one, we live in a microwavable society, right? It's a bit of a tongue twister, that one. A microwavable society where people just want things straight away. Consumerism. I want it now. Give it to me now. It's like, working for things is non-existent anymore, Steve. It doesn't exist. It's obsolete. So the people that do, decide to put in the work, just by default, they're going to get more results. And that's sometimes, when we talk about the path of least resistance and the path of creating your own path, like where the path hasn't even been created sometimes and you got to lay the bricks. Like, I would rather do that because there's just so much more on this side than that path of least resistance. I just won't go down that track, and right now, the other thing really that people struggle with and that what they want to happen, like, which backs up the whole microwavable society, is the schooling system is created for everybody to fit in this square box. And I love talking about the schooling system because when I was in school, I'd walk in and the teacher would say, well, Cole, had enough of you already, get out. And I was so sweet. So I go pick up the rugby ball, go kick the rugby ball around. Back then I wanted to be an All Black, but obviously that never happened. But, what kind of happened, what's happening in our community, and especially in Sound Money Secrets, is a lot of the ladies in there, it's obviously mixed gender. So we've got, female, male, mums, tradies, people from different walks of life. And a lot of the parents in there are actually like, world schooling, they're homeschooling their kids because they don't believe in some of the agendas and, some things that, that they didn't want happen to their kids. They actually give a fuck. And they're willing to put themselves, in the position of schooling their own kids, which I'm a huge believer in because the schooling system just strips kids of their creativity anyway. There's no creativity in school. It's a curriculum. And what curriculum means is like, it's about programming the mind to be a certain way, to do things a certain way. And it's basically funneling you into being a taxpayer and a slave. And that I just don't agree with. And it hasn't changed. They've never changed the curriculum because they've enslaved so many people for so long that it's still kind of working. So they're like, well, why would we change it when people still believe that, it's a good idea to go to school and, then go to university and bank up a whole heap of a massive HECS debt and then be paying that back and, and paying interest on that and like for the rest of your life. And then probably you won't even end up in the job that, or the role or the industry that you studied in. And then you go back and study again, do it all over again. It's just, to me, it's just crazy. It's a crazy concept.
It's one of the things, and this is why I believe it's an absolutely amazing time to be alive. No matter what challenges we've got going on, you could say they're unprecedented. But one of the things is like, people think of a job, or it's just, I've just got to have a job to make money. And then they start to go, oh shit, maybe there's other ways, and they have to really get out of their own way or their comfort zone or what they believe and shift that. Now we're at this point where I'm seeing it a lot. I'm surrounded by, we have a little daycare running here, but it's education focused. I've got my son here growing up, and he's going to grow up with these kids in this community.
Love that.
I see the schooling system and I'm like, ooh, like what you said, stay away. Guys, have a drive around your community. Go past the place that has the big iron bars and the barbed wire around there and tell me what it actually looks like if you wipe out the fact that there's a sign saying it's a school. Have a think about that. But anyway, the other thing that people are coming to terms with now, they think school's just a given. Oh, my kid's 4, preschool. My kid's going to go to school. People are going, well, is there other options? What do you mean? Like, and it's starting to break people out of, you mentioned the word, the matrix before. There's so many levels to this, and there's so many ways that we are trapped in it. Like, and it's a constant thing.
It's just a control mechanism.
100%.
That's all it is. It's a way of controlling and programming the mind early when the kid is going through the most important years of their life, trying to develop their mind into, I guess, developing creativity to what they want to become or who they want to be, or I guess they're developing their personality, and that personality is completely stripped from them. If you look at the classroom, if you're in a classroom, the biggest problem that, and it is crazy that like the people that struggled in school are usually the ones that are successful entrepreneurs, business owners, people that, correct, right? You're looking at it too now. So like, and I hated school, man. I went all the way through school, right? And in class, I was always distracted. I didn't like participating in any of the written stuff. I wasn't big for English. Mathematics wasn't my favorite subject at all. But I loved sport, right? And that's the only thing that kept me in school, probably sport, eating my lunch and talking to my mates. That's the only thing that ever kept me in school. Because, I was lucky that I didn't, early on in my early years, I didn't get distracted by, drugs and alcohol and that sort of stuff. I was so focused on sport that was the real catalyst that took me through school. And maybe that was good because it's actually got me to where I am today. With the guidance and help of certain platforms and, plugging into certain education. Like, I wasn't always like this. I wasn't always outgoing. I found myself initially, Steve, quite introverted. If we talk about, as a man, being able to communicate about your emotions, being fearful of talking to women, I really struggled with that. Like, I struggled with my own insecurities, and I had to learn to deal with that to become a better person. But I didn't fucking learn that at school, because all I got taught at school was, Cole, shut up and sit down and say nothing. Well, shutting up and sitting down and saying nothing by far has not got me fucking anywhere in life. I can tell you that much. You know, I'm a natural born communicator. That's where I'm meant to be. And if I don't communicate, I'm stuck. Like, that's just what I do. And that's where I need to be. So the schooling system is one of the systems. And if we want to talk about the systems, that's one of the systems that's fucked. The financial system is broken, right? And obviously, when we look at the health system, it's so obvious that that's fucked as well. So no matter how you look at it, the facts are in front of you.
Yeah, and this is what I love about what you do. And a lot of the men that I get on here, that you're solution focused already. We can come on here and we can talk. And I see this really actually running rampant now. A lot of people are talking about what's wrong, but they're never putting an emphasis on or giving a pathway for the solutions. And that's what I love with the Sound Money Secrets, with the community you've got, with the different options that you give people through education and through support. I think that gives you permission to be able to educate and talk on this more so than a lot of people out there now who just are literally regurgitating the same shit from all these other people, thinking that they're making a difference, where all in all they're doing is they're just keeping people stuck in the first step. Yeah, these systems are out to get us. These systems are got us stuck, blah, blah, blah. This is corruption. This is that. Well, what I say this to people who generally come to me, or I'll call them out on it. Like, what's the next fucking step then? What have you got going on that is actually to give these guys a pathway? If you're going to talk about this and then drift to the earth is flat and this is that because they lied, is that your fucking solution?
Yeah.
Do you see that
exactly
as a problem right now? But at the same time,
I do.
Yeah.
Like I see you're part of the problem if you're just fueling the fire. All you're doing is fueling the fire, man. They want you to talk about it. They don't want you to be a solution provider or somebody who's like thinking about, okay, what pathways can we create for people to help them break free? They don't want you to think like that. They want you to feed the issue, to be part of the issue, and to fuel the issue. And all that does is just creates more mediocre, crazy, I guess you look at it like, look at social media. People talking about, like pandemics and stuff all over social media. I'm like, dude, you're just being part of the problem. Shut up. Like, stop talking like about the problem and start fixing it. Start creating solutions, because it's just another distraction for you. Do you think that you talking about the problem is going to help? All it does is trigger people. It pisses people off. So, and it completely distracts them from the solutions. And the solutions are, it's like your business will never grow if you're too busy being, distracted by the problem.
Yeah.
It's about understanding the problem and then going, okay, what can we do to fix it? Or how can we build pathways and platforms to help provide solutions to the problems? That's how I look at it.
100%. And I think we've touched a bit on like what we do, like of service and adding value and all that. When you get that part, that's adding value with the service is the solution with what is either something we've learned or we've come to be in our genius zone. And it takes work. It takes inner work. I love the example you give about being introverted. I'm very, very similar to you. A lot of people would not believe that, but I was the same. It took a lot of inner work for me to get to a point where I go, I actually love communicating. I actually love being the center of attention versus being hide away. I don't want to meet new people, talk to new people and that sort of stuff. But I think there's a big opportunity for humanity now for a lot of people who have been sharing a lot of things around, yes, the pandemic and all the things that are going on. And I definitely don't want people to stop talking about it, but I think people need to understand they need to add another string to their bow. And it's probably in alignment with something to do with mission and purpose. Your mission and purpose, guys, if you feel like you don't have the energy to do something extra, like another job or help out in the community more or follow your dreams, something creative, if you feel like you don't have the energy, as soon as you start helping people, you tap into an energy that you probably never felt before. And I promise you, You're going to be able to do more than just help people. You're going to then have solutions for people that you can be able to run with and so on. Would you attest to that, mate?
I totally agree. Like the biggest problem is like most people take their visions, their dreams, their aspirations to the grave because they're never allowed or given the time to actually, I guess, engage in it and just let it like marinate. Like they're not allowed to. It's stripped away from them from an early age. So, when I remember the day when I was asked, like, Coel, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I'm like, well, fuck if I know. Like, that's a long time away. Like, give me some time. It's like, oh, I want to be a fireman. It's like, well, what does that entail? Like, you don't know at that age. So, like, when we do start to learn what it does entail, then we start to discover like who we want to become and what we want to do. Like I always knew like at some stage, like I was either going to become an All Black, or I was going to do something in sport, right? And I ended up being a strength coach for 10 years, right? 10 years. And I actually finish up as a strength coach in a month. So I'll be full-time online and starting to move into the education space online, like we talked about earlier. And doing more of this sort of stuff. This is what I just love doing this sort of thing. And it's crazy, how I guess your pathway and your kind of career and, it shifts, as you start to move forward as a person and start to get more plugged in and educated. You start to want to share that education with other people. And it's just natural, it just becomes so natural and so organic.
Yeah, awesome, man. Awesome. When you hear Wildman Revolution, what comes up for you?
Oh, man, I love this. This is such a good question. Like, for me, it's like fearless, just being fearless. Like, there's so many, especially males, like males are so content that they're so like reserved. Like, they're like, oh, I don't want to do that because, or I don't want to take that step because, people might look at me and think I'm weird, or, think I'm like left field. That's how I look at it, is like, well, it's people that are fierce, it's allowing the fire to come up from within. And it's almost like you're breathing fire. That's like, so something about it. Like, it's something about like the brand that like, it just sticks out like dog's balls because of, I guess men are so reserved and we're so content and so, we can't speak about our emotions. We can't talk about like, even things like, like our sexual relationships and all that sort of stuff as well. Like I know males, Steve, they can't even communicate about like, they're like, oh no, masturbation, or, and they don't want to talk about this. It's like, that's natural, man. Like, come on. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy. But yeah, for me, it's just that fierce fire within, and just allowing males to speak their mind and allowing them to have a space to, or get, I guess, like a vehicle as well that just allows them to open up, like, and strip away all the fear and all the bullshit, and all what people think of you, and just, allowing you to really speak your mind and be who you really are. That's what I feel that Wildman Revolution is. It's just, and I can see by the caliber of people that are coming on this podcast, like the people that it's attracting are males that are, they've been through some shit, man. And some I've listened to, I'm just like, wow, like you wouldn't think so. Then you listen to the stories and you're like, that's why that person's where they are today, So
yeah, I love that, man. I love that. You opened up a couple of tangents. I'm definitely going to get you back on the podcast. Maybe we do a podcast on masturbation for all the men and women out there, hey? But 100% spot on, man. There's so many things you brought up then, which is so spot on. And the wild part can mean many things. Like when it resonates with me, because wild, I'm like, see myself as a bit wild. I'll pick up venomous snakes. I go to the bush to and do crazy shit and that to
I
fill
love
my
those
cup.
videos, I love those videos. If you think, I'm like, what sort of snake is that? And you're like, oh, it's not venomous, or it is venomous, or it's like the most deadliest snake. And I'm like, dude, you're crazy. Eh? Like,
but it is. But coming back to it, it's who I am, and I'm owning who I am, and like even the expression of what my gifts and all this sort of thing, and opening up, and that's what is at the core. And having all the men on the podcast, including yourself, you guys all. You all are owning who you are and what you're here to do in this world, and I really fucking respect that. And again, it's something I wanted to do with this podcast, is show everyone out there that, because I was hearing it for when all the stuff started going down a couple of years ago with all that, where are all the men? Where are all the men? I'm like, wait a sec. Where the fuck are you guys looking? I know a heap of fucking men that are doing great in the world, but I wanted to be able to highlight that. And at the center is owning your wild, which is great. I want to shift gears for a sec. Now, you got a massive heart, man. A massive heart. You're always about serving people. I know you've been on a journey a bit closer to home with your mum over recent times. And did you want to just talk to that briefly? What that meant to you? Because it's we all face challenges in life. Some are really, really fucking close to home.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's, like the last 2 years, especially not being able to, like, mum's had cancer for she's been on and off for 8 years. And she had melanoma cancer, and initially it started out as a kind of a gradual thing. She, went through multiple operations to have lymph nodes out of one side. Then it came back and she had to have lymph nodes out of the other side. So, traveling was a confliction for her initially because of the inflammation that's caused. And your lymph nodes are part of that excretion system, getting a lot of like fluid and stuff out of your system. So for her, traveling was a complication, and she could only travel or fly so far because of obviously the altitude difference and stuff like that. But for her and the connection that we have, it's actually brought us closer. Even though we're 7 hours apart, like she's in New Zealand, she's been, we're through this whole pandemic shit. I haven't been able to see her. So, due to my own choices, I haven't been able to travel, and I've been locked in WA for 2 years, near on 2 years. And that's been the main struggle point, but it's also been the catalyst to a lot of my success in the last 2 years. She is part of my why, and the reason why I do what I do, and the reason why I want to, allow her to live a life that, maybe she didn't think she would ever have. Maybe she didn't, she doesn't think is possible. And she's very respectful of how different I am to all my other siblings. Like I have a very like interesting outlook on life, and she's probably the one that supported me the most over the years, with my love for the online space, and, always saying to her, Mum, one day I'm going to go full-time online, and you're going to be the reason why, or the catalyst for that happening. Because when I look back at when she got cancer, it just made me more driven to push closer towards that ability to, retire her and get her in a situation where she's debt free. And utilizing the online spaces as a vehicle to do that. So the last 2 years has been interesting. There's been emotional days and nights, and there's been times where I've just wanted to fucking throw it all in. But like there was a voice inside my head that always said, like, Coel, you can't give up. You can't throw in the towel, because if you do, then you're throwing in her towel as well. So that was the power that took me through that process. And it's definitely a mental game. There was a lot of mind games that were played in my head, where, I was in a situation where it was like, Coel, you got to get a vaccine. You got to do this. I'm like, I'm not fucking doing that, because it goes against my belief systems. It goes against who I am. And I feel like that's just bending over and, just taking it up the ass. It's definitely just, I'm not like that. I won't subside. And like we're saying, we're talking about being a fierce male. And I feel that that a lot of people can resonate this, and I really hope people get this message that when you're in a situation where you feel you're backed into a corner, that's when you have to start making those tough decisions. And like dangling a carrot in front of somebody and saying you won't have a job, and then 2 years later saying, oh, we don't care if you are or you aren't. It's just absolutely crazy. It's so crazy, Steve, that to the point where like I'm just like in that situation where I'm like, I honestly can't believe why people would do that. But I guess people are in a situation where they live week to week. And, my goal is to help less people live week to week. And by doing that, as a byproduct of that, helping my mum, position herself to really create more freedom and to be able to, travel at will and do what she wants to do. So she's working part-time now. She's obviously recovered from her cancer. 2 years she spent doing, totally, man. The strength, and a lot of strength pulled in. I kind of like, I don't know if like people on here can resonate with this, but like, if you understand, if you're like a Dragon Ball Z follower from back in the day, with the Dragon Ball Z, this is funny. This is a funny conversation, but it's like that spirit bomb that Goku does, and like pulls all the energy and the strength from everything around in the universe and stuff like that. I'm a big believer in that, and I believe that was the catalyst that got her through. Cancer is something that's so, it's definitely a topic that's not talked about very much, but it is something that is killing a lot of people, and a lot of loved ones going too early. And I'm seeing it a lot more now. Mum has been through it. It's crazy that I'm seeing it more. It's funny. It's like that car that you go and buy, all of a sudden everybody's got that same car. Well, this is that scenario of like, I'm seeing more people struggling with the disease that is cancer. But yeah, it comes back to the topic of people getting the disease of cancer because of a lot of their choices as well. Like a lot of the things that they're exposed to and a lot of the things that they choose. They do have a choice, food is one of them. Having natural cures, I'm a huge believer. And I didn't want mum to actually go down. It's her body, her choice though. She didn't really she wanted to go down the natural route. But she went down the internal kind of chemo route where it's not cheap. It was 10,000 a month, which it took 2 months. So you can actually, if you can think about how strong those drugs were. So she ended up in hospital twice, just with adverse reactions. And that was the hardest times for me, when she was alone. Nobody could go in, obviously, because the whole fucking COVID scenario. Nobody could go in and support her, only one person, and that was her partner. And I'm forever grateful for him as well, for the effort and everything that he went through over the past couple of years. But it's a topic that's near and dear to my heart, bro, and it always will be. And it's definitely something that's taken me to where I am today, for sure.
Yeah, I'm glad we got to talk about that. It is something that touches a lot of people. I think it's my personal opinion, I think it's another one of the medical system and matrix that there are better ways out there. I'm doing my best to get a really special guest on soon who's had a family member that's fully recovered, and they went Dr. Joe Dispenza, that route. And there's more of this coming online now, and having healthy, grounded, positive people around, I think that's one of the biggest things. And I've got massive respect for you for sticking to your beliefs through this time too, because it would have been really, really easy. Yes, your mum's your why. She's going through this stuff. It would have been easy for you to fold on your beliefs and go, all right, stuff it. I have to go see her, da-da-da. But no, I'm going to be strong. Stick to what I believe. I still give a fuck. I give more than a fuck. But I'm going to stick to what I believe, because this is about the bigger picture too. And I have massive respect for yourself through that, man. And look, your mum's on the mend. She's part-time working now, and
totally. And like, funny you say that, because I head off to New Zealand, and I'm going to be living in New Zealand for I don't have a return ticket to Perth. So my journey in Perth's kind of done for the time being. And that's purely off the back of now I can, go home and spend time with her, work online, kind of have no fixed address for a while. And that's just going to help me build more experience and build more life experience. And, I believe that sometimes you just got to get after it. Sometimes you just got to stop operating your comfort zone. I'm huge on, and I say this to my leaders all the time. We talk all the time about, success will never dance with comfort. They don't work together. They don't dance on the same dance floor. So when you start getting uncomfortable, all of a sudden you start to see results. And uncomfortable for me is like, I've always been somebody that kind of gets in like lives in a certain area and just goes to the same cafes and, kind of, I'm I'm a creature of habit, which has its good and bad, which is good and bad. There's positives and negatives. But for me, it's about like, the more I grow myself, the more, everything else in my life will grow. So going home is definitely, it's a temporary thing, but it's about spending time with the loved ones and spending time with family and nurturing that time, because as it can be stripped out just as quickly as, or before you know it. So for me, that's one of my key values is family. And the other one's freedom. So that's one of my other core values. So I'm killing two birds with one stone here. So why not, and then the next journey, Steve, is like, I really want to do a bit of island living. I want to, live by I've always lived kind of by the water. I've always been a bit of a water child. But, moving forward, I definitely want, to be focusing on that laptop lifestyle, and because it'll allow me to do so. And I'm in a situation now where I actually can do that. I don't have a family yet. It's not something that I don't want, but it's something that, hasn't happened yet. Haven't met the right person. I know you'll be able to resonate with that, with you and Chi, and how that all kind of started. But yeah, like, it'll happen when it's meant to happen. I'm a big believer in that. Energy will always meet energy, and the more I focus on pushing towards my vision, I find that somebody will attract it.
100%. Glad you mentioned, people would have picked up on a long time ago, you got a weird ass accent. I live with one. She's a Kiwi. My son was born in New Zealand. Whereabouts in New Zealand you heading to?
So where our family farm is on the west coast of the North Island. So in a little town called Kaiwaka, that's where the closest town is. But you go out on the west coast, and we've got farmland, a peninsula out on the west coast, which is actually Māori heritage land, which is old war ground for the Pākehā and Māori and the early settlers. So it's been in the family for 4 generations. So as we know, land is powerful, and it's something I'm huge on. In New Zealand, we call it the whenua. And reconnecting with that has always been the best place where I've made the best decisions. Reconnecting with your roots is so important, and going back to the basics and stripping away all the shit that's in society, and just living a simple life for, like, it might be 6 to 8 months to a year, and you start to make really obviously, intuitive decisions. And I'm in a time in my life now where that's so important. It's so important. So
yeah, awesome, man. I'm excited for you, man. Journeying over there. I'll probably be heading to New Zealand sometime in the near future too. Again, I love the country. And yeah, apart from it being extremely cold at this time of the year, but I could deal with that for a week or so.
Yeah.
We're getting to the close of this podcast, man. There's many things that we could have covered. I was thinking we haven't really covered crypto, and I'm not even going to start to cover it now because we have so much we do in that space. But I'll definitely get back on. I do have some questions where you can give one-word answers relative to crypto. One-word answers. So when you think Bitcoin or Ethereum, what do you say?
Ooh, tough one. Can that be an answer? Look,
I hope
for me,
Bitcoin.
for me now, based on recent events, my one-word answer would be Bitcoin. I won't go into detail. You guys can jump on the next podcast and I'll explain why. And Steve can help back it up with his research as well. But in saying that, I've always been a huge backer of Ethereum. I do hold a lot of Ethereum. For reasons that I'm not going to explain, you're going to have to wait to the next podcast. But I'll leave it at that. So yeah, Bitcoin for the time being, for sure.
Longest one-word answer I've ever got, but thank you.
I'm just trying to create. I'm trying to create, urgency so people will hop on the next podcast.
No, we have plenty to dive into on another
sure.
podcast, which I'll definitely get you back on soon. Sure. Another question I generally close out the podcast with, mate. The world is perceived to be a crazy place right now. It's probably going to get crazier. We've touched on a bunch of things today where as the chaos unfolds, the different systems and structures collapse while we're bringing solutions in at the same time. But 12 months from now, two-part question. Where do you see the world? Or how do you see it? And what do you see your role in it?
Where do I see the world in 12 months' time?
Yeah.
Not in a better place than it is right now.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. And how do I see my role? Is that what you said? So
yeah.
My role, again, is back to what I said earlier. Helping people exit the matrix and know that there is solutions there. Just helping people engage in that idea that there is solutions there and they're not on their own. That's the answer. That'd be the answer to that.
Awesome, man. And it's a common answer with the guests that I have on, even myself, where I see it, where we're just really real when we say the world's probably not going to be a better place if you're looking at all the perceived chaos right now. But what I really know, it's not from a place of fear or, oh my God, we're losing control. It's from a place of, hey, we've got work to do. And that's what I believe. I think it's going to be a challenging, probably 5 years, maybe more. But at the same time, I know I'm living my best life right now. There's nothing should be able to stop us from that. And that's the way I see it. And that's why I really appreciate the honesty to say, hey, 12 months from now, it's probably going to be just as messy, if not messier.
It doesn't mean that you shouldn't be a better person. Like, it costs nothing. I want to close out on this, Steve. It costs nothing to be a good person, right? It's costing you nothing. So, like, just go out and just make a difference. Create some change. Help the person next to you, understand their struggles, It's for me, I definitely believe that, like, there's been over the last few years, I believe that there's been communities come together, but there's also a lot of people out there floating that don't really have any direction. So just pull those people in and just go, hope is a big thing. Help, hope and obviously helping people, I guess, provide solutions to their problems. That's what I want to finish on.
Awesome, brother. Awesome. This has been an epic podcast. Where can people find you?
So you can find me on Facebook, obviously. Just Coel Linnel on Facebook. So CoelLinnell. And yeah, I'm not huge for Instagram, but mainly just Facebook. And then obviously we're on Clubhouse as well. That's just Coel Linnel on Clubhouse. as well. So, but I'll pass the links over to Steve, and he can put it in the description, and we'll just go from there.
I'll put all the links down below, whether you're watching this on YouTube or listening on all podcast platforms. Definitely connect in with Coel too. He is solution focused, and as you would have gathered today, he's a grounded, knowledgeable, wise man, and he is super driven to be able to help. And it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, brother. We finally got there. To give a bit of a backstory on that before I go, we have been trying for fucking months to get this to happen. I wasn't going to let my perceived illness fucking hold this off today. So I'm so happy that we got this done and recorded. Thank you, brother. Really appreciate the work you do, mate. And really appreciate you being on this edition of the Wildman Revolution podcast.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate you.
See you later.
I can hear the demons call when they do what they do, and now I feel like taking off, find a place with a view. The pain is never gonna stop if it's controlling you. I know that time can heal it all, I just gotta get through. I just gotta